Here is a quick sound overview of the Super Muff. It is vintage distortion. You can see it's got volume, tone, and gain. Overall, it's a pretty subtle sound. So here I'll play just a couple of bar chords with it off at first, so you can kind of try to hear the difference. And then kind of the same thing with it on. You can see you got the gain cranked fairly high. And I'll put the tone somewhere in the middle. And then I'll just do the same thing again, just playing a few notes. So, and here's again with it on. And the one thing I should say too is it's actually a fairly clean sound throughout. I don't know if you can quite hear it. Put my mic a little bit closer. At the very end of the gain, you hear a little bit of buzz coming through, but it's not too bad. This is my review of the gray tube valve stack stimulator by STRICH. It's actually one of the favorite ones I've tried from STRICH. It's got a three-way selector at the top, so you can go from fat, boost, or normal. I don't like the fat, but you can kind of go between the two of them. Volume, gain, and tone. So first I'll just play a couple of bar chords with it off and sort of like a fairly neutral tone. Yeah, and I'll try to play the same thing again. And the gain is set to about 3/4. The tone is about halfway. And just kind of a similar test with just some notes. And again with turned on. And now just a quick comparison between fat, boost, and normal. So right now it's on the top one, fat. And then I'll go to boost. And then go back down to normal. And here I'll try it again, which is I'll put the tone, the gain down a bit and crank up the tone so you can get an idea. So overall, actually I quite like this one. I think the tone overall sounds pretty good. And here I'll just do an example. I'll crank up the gain all the way. So you can see just at the top, say maybe 90 to 100%, starting to get a little bit more noise in the background. But overall, it's not too bad overall, just the last little bit. So here's a bit of a audio review of the Decay Brit Stack Simulator by STRICH. So just a quick overview. It's got volume, gain, and tone, and then it's got a two-way selector on the top, and it selects between bright and normal. And then of course the foot stomp switch. And here I will try to play something fairly neutral with it off first, just so you can kind of hear the difference. So here we go. So that's just a few bar chords, and now I'll turn it on. So it's quite nice. It's got a bit of a growl to it. Here, I'll just turn down the tone just so you can get an idea, and maybe I'll put the gain at about 50%. And I'll give you an idea of just, so right now it's on bright. So if I put it on to normal, and then this is bright again. give you a bit of an idea. And the one thing I did notice though is when you have the gain at about, I don't know, between 80 and 90, it is a little bit noisy. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's a little bit of hum coming through. And here's just one more example playing a few notes. So that's with it on, and then I'll just turn it on again. Here's a bit of a sound overview of the noise gate by STRICH. So first I'll just play a chord and with it off, so you can kind of get an idea. So you can hear that the chord just rings out for a really long time. There's a decent amount of sustain. And then if I turn this on, right now I have it about, well, I don't know, 80% or so. It's pretty high, so it should cut off pretty quickly. And if I put it at something a little bit lower, you can here it goes quite a long ways, right to the end. And here is an example of using it with like a little bit of noise. So I have another pedal here. So if I turn this up and crank up the gain, you'll hear like, hopefully you can hear like there's a bunch of buzz. So if I turn my noise gate on, you actually have to turn it fairly high, I find, to get rid of that kind of noise, but kind of at about like 75. Now I don't hear it at all, but I'll play some more chords. So it's still pretty decent, and there's still a fair amount of sustain, but then you can just hear that it totally cuts off the background hum, which is quite nice. So overall, I think I find it okay. I thought it was good for, like, say, cutting off sustain if you don't want to have like notes ring out for too long. But just for general noise, like I showed you in this one, you have to really crank it pretty high. So like here, I got my guitar here. So if I have the gain like pretty high, you can kind of just hear, if I'm just even gently rubbing the strings, it causes a lot of noise. But with this on, you have to have it really high before it'll get kind of rid of some of the more subtle noises. And then now it's a little bit too high. I can't really get too much sound here. So you can see it's about like 90%. So now it is actually effectively getting rid of a lot of just the general noise from the strings. But again, it's got to be pretty high. So you are sort of limiting sort of your sustain on your various notes.
Okay, video review of the STRICH Vintage Echo Delay Pedal. A budget guitar pedal selling for £33.99. So, playing on my guitar, just my guitar, straight into the pedal, straight into my audio interface. Pedal is off. Nice clean signal. Possibly slightly out of tune. Sorry, didn't tune it. So let's have a look. Let's dive in. So everything is 12, 12, 12. Everything's at the top. So we shall turn it on and. I don't know how well you can hear this. Bit of a delay. So let's put it to sort of the extreme so you can really hear the delay. So we've got over here feedback, which just means the amount of times it repeats the delay signal. So if you have it very on a very low setting, it will repeat literally once and stop. If you put it all the way up, it'll just keep going and going and going. So that's your feedback. Your time is the time between the play and the repeat. So the minimum setting, so the quickest return is, it's almost like a, so you can sort of hear it, it's like a vibration almost, it's so close. So if we go to the longest time, this is the first thing that surprised me slightly. So this is the longest delay you can possibly have. It's not a very long delay, what's that? Half a second, if that. 0.5 milliseconds. That's not a long delay at all. I personally like something a bit longer than that. So that's those two anyway. The last control, level. This controls the level of the effect, not the level of the overall output sound, just the level of the effect. So if we turn it right down, the effect basically disappears. No effect at all. Here's where the problem lies. If you turn it as loud as you possibly, because you might notice at 12 o'clock it's not very loud. It's there, it's not that loud. The louder you turn it up, the more hiss you get. So it's a distorted sound. Where's that distortion coming from? I thought it was my equipment. I've already changed out this cable here. I know this green cable's good in my guitar. I use it all the time. The power supply is good. Obviously it's working. If you turn it off, there is. I'll go a bit louder for you if you want. That noise is just not there. But you put the effect on. That to me is unusable. So for that alone, I'd drop it down to almost the lowest rating I could. On top of that, the what's that button called? Time. The time settings. It's just not a wide enough sweep. The shortest time, fine, but the longest time, I want a second or more. Just make that the range instead. I'm not impressed. And then finally, on a pedal board, I don't use cables like this. I use pancake cables, the flat ones, so I can get lots of pedals very close together. Having the power supply coming out the side is a terrible place to put it. Almost every pedal has the power supply coming out the back of the pedal. So even if I use a pancake cable on both sides here, this power supply is still going to be sticking out the cable, flexing around. If you flex the cable around, you then put strain on the power socket, you're going to cause a broken contact on the inside as well. So avoid this like the plague. There are better delays out there. Check them out, but do not buy this delay pedal. It is not a good product. Sorry.
little bit. Here's without. Here's with the effect. Okay.
Lo que tenemos aquí es un pedal de distorsión de fabricación china, en este caso. Es un pedal Warcry, que digamos que está más orientado a unas distorsiones un poco más agresivas, más tipo metal. Y no tiene más que un pedal cualquiera. Su entrada de toma de corriente, la entrada de línea, la salida de línea hacia el amplificador. Y luego pues tiene un switch para un conmutador para cambiar entre limpio y distorsión, un potenciómetro de volumen, uno de distorsión y uno de tono que nos lo marca como contour. Yo voy a hacer la prueba con un amplificador Fender Performer 1000 y con una guitarra Fender Telecaster Performer. Y tengo en la pequeña palanca que nos permite cambiar entre distorsión clásica y una distorsión un poco más fuerte, la tengo puesta en distorsión clásica. Nosotros, si no metemos nada, obviamente nos va a salir con la configuración que tengamos en el amplificador. Si ya le metemos distorsión, pues obviamente ya tenemos esto. Un poquito más de volumen. Le podemos dar más volumen, tanto en el amplificador como en el pedal, obviamente. Le podemos meter más distorsión. Vamos a probar con un riff clásico con poca distorsión para que se vean las diferencias. Si le subimos la distorsión, pues obviamente sonará más fuerte. Más agresivo. Y luego tendríamos el tono que nos permite conmutar entre un tono más oscuro y algo un poco más agudo. Pues eso sería todo.
You having fun there?
Adesso posizione bright, la preferita.